Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us. I would like to introduce a wonderful Canto client, Houston Food Bank. They are a member of the Feeding America Network. And today I am joined by Maggie, Masid, Paradise, and we are going to take a tour of Houston Food Bank's Canto instance. I am the sales campaign manager. My name is Ariana Kyle. Very happy to be a part of the Canto family and very happy to have Maggie here with us today as the marketing and communications manager for Houston Food Bank. So just to tell all of our viewers and listeners a little bit about what Canto is and how it works, Canto is a digital asset management system that allows companies to easily store, organize, share, and control their digital assets. So digital assets are anything from images, logos, videos, and any other kind of file that form your company's brand. Canto's powerful features like global search, metadata, and portals that save your team time when searching for and sharing assets. We want to help brands and teams focus on the work that really matters instead of them spending time managing those digital assets. So without further ado, I am going to hand the screen over to Maggie. Maggie, thank you for being here with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about what Houston Food Bank does and about your role here?
Yeah, of course. So the Houston Food Bank works to address food insecurity and the root causes of poverty that drive food insecurity. And the way we do that is by distributing food and supplies to 18 counties in Southeast Texas. And that's through a network of around 1,500 partners. So those partners are places like pantries, multi-service centers, schools, and those partners in turn receive the food or supplies from us and then give them out directly to their communities. And in addition, we also do some programming and services that are really aimed at helping people achieve long-term stability, not just putting food on the table tonight, but really helping them in the future. So that's things like job training, nutrition education, health management, and help with securing state-funded services like SNAP. And my role is the marketing communications manager. I've been with the food bank about 7.5 years. I like to say my role has two main areas of focus, and one of them being project management and kind of what I call process improvement. And that's kind of working both on our internal teams, methodologies, and how we work together as a team, but also how we work with other team members and departments to do projects to get things done. And I look at different ways and different solutions to make us more efficient and to just make our work more creative and help our coworkers really achieve what they're looking for. And that's really where Canto has come in. And then the other part of my job is a little more creative, focused on videography, motion graphics, data visualizations, and other sort of fun writing and design type tasks.
The exciting stuff.
Yes, fun stuff and fun stuff that's more logical.
Gotcha. So why did you decide initially to look for a digital asset management system?
Yeah, so we have a relatively large staff for a nonprofit, and a lot of those staff members really use a computer every day or most days. And we have a pretty small marketing communications department. So I was really looking for a way to not only more efficiently within our team manage our assets like our photos, logos, icons, rather than having, a shared network drive that takes forever to load or 200 folders with different things and different file naming conventions. It just gets very messy, but also even more so just a way to help our coworkers feel empowered to make their own choices for what they want to share. Everyone we work with at some point is going to want to share a photo or a video clip or even need a logo for something. It used to be where they would ask us to find those things, make those choices for them. And, that took our time, but also isn't really very empowering and doesn't really promote what they're feeling and what they want to show about what we do.
That's a great way of looking at that. It's not just that in the previous system, you were kind of a bottleneck for the content and it was, overburdening, your role, but also that it was limiting the independent creativity and thought process of the rest of the team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when somebody's even just doing a PowerPoint on their program to peers at another organization, we wanted them to be able to use photos and use graphics that really spoke to them and that they could really identify with and help explain what they really do.
That makes total sense. I would imagine that really helps introduce a feeling of authenticity then when the users are really speaking from the heart and choosing things that they feel will represent their vision for the food bank.
We really feel like everybody can be a brand ambassador, right? Regardless of what their role is. Having a collection of resources that they can easily find what they want to is really helpful for that.
Excellent. You had mentioned previously, network drives and shared folders, but in general, what was the system you were using before you implemented a DAM?
Internally on our team, it was just that network drive. And then we had a few items on SharePoint. We had an old version of SharePoint. It was very much for documents and not for photos, not for logos. It's very hard it was even hard to upload things, let alone tagging things, finding things, downloading things. So yeah, it was a challenge.
Gotcha. I can absolutely understand that. That's something we hear a lot of. So we've got a view of your Canto library. Can you show us how you have your assets organized in your Canto instance?
Yeah, so I really think of it as sort of three main areas. And the one I have pulled up right now is kind of what I call the admin side of it. It's where
Mhm.
we have, well, eventually we'll have all of our photos, logos, graphics, and everything that the marketing communications team uses. And that includes, some file formats that other people probably aren't really going to use. But it also, the way I think of it is it might have 15 photos from a photo shoot, but
Mhm.
and my digital strategist who does our social media might want to use one in particular because there's more space on this side, but then our graphic designer might want to use this one instead where she can more accurately sort of cut out the focus. But the majority of the staff who are just using our staff portal for sending things to donors, to partners, or for their sort of presentations or general contracts or just like general communications, they don't really need three photos of basically the same thing. So
Mhm.
this is more of the staging area where we have everything and then stuff gets curated out into the other portals.
Gotcha. The backstage content,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
whole library in its entirety, definitely. And you said staff assets, so that's for still primarily internal use, but a little bit different than the admin section.
Yeah, so the staff assets portal I have set up here, I've spent a lot more time setting it up than the admin side to be really user friendly.
I mean, this is a gorgeous portal. This is a beautiful example of what you can do with portals, whether you're using them for, sharing outward to a general audience or to your specific staff. No, this is lovely. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and the way I kind of think of this is, yeah, like I said, it's a little more curated and it's a little more focused on the types of things that our general staff are doing or making. So the marketing communications team does the majority of our marketing communications materials. So whether that's a program flyer, a thank you video, a social
Mhm.
post, but like I mentioned earlier, the rest of our staff, they're doing their PowerPoints for presentation. They're making more internal materials like staff care resources. They're just sending communications to the external stakeholders that they have contacts with, so donors or partners of just what we're doing. So it's more casual promotion. So it's more of them, like I said, implementing their voice and making sure that they're sending stuff that really speaks to them.
Mm. I can see how this is really very simple and easy to understand in terms of how it's organized by both like the type of content, like templates or graphics or photos, but also by maybe specific usages that come up a lot, like your nutrition education program. Um, yeah, so this is just a really great example. Can you click into to one of these and so we can just
Yeah.
show our viewers what it
Um,
looks like?
I'm gonna go into templates because it's probably the best organized. um, so I love using the curated view. It helps people just see stuff broken out into sections a little bit more easily.
Mm,
So here I have, we've done a couple PowerPoint templates that are still our brand that people can grab and make their own. Our letterhead that has our board list, as well as single page documents, multi-page documents. I've actually made some sort of custom how-to videos on a lot of these as well. So when you click into them, the related files can basically help you figure out what to do with them and how to make them work, as well as sort of other things that you might be interested in.
Oh, fantastic. So you've also mapped to it your own how-to library. I'm sure that must save a lot of time of people pinging you with email questions,
That's the
or at
idea.
least some of it. At
Yeah,
least some of
exactly.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, people want to be curious. So I think it's helpful for people to explore and just kind of figure it out on their own without having to feel like they have to ask questions.
Excellent. Yeah, very, very empowering to the user. I can definitely see that. So separate from staff assets and admin assets, I saw on the previous page, you also had, kind of public assets.
Yes, so we do have public assets. So this tab here, and right now it started as a COVID portal. I'm sure a lot of people have these as well. I just haven't gotten to the point of cloning it and renaming it, but I've basically everything other than the URL and the title are more about what we're doing recently, what we've done recently.
COVID plus additional.
Yes, it's within the last year, I would say, is the best way to put it. And this is really aimed at, sharing this and making this available for any external person, whether that's a news station, a journalist, or just a volunteer who's interested, or a student who wants to do a report. So this one has no login, and it's even more further curated than the staff portal, and it also has more direct locations of really general things like building photos, photos of people that have gotten food assistance, as well as our logos, because that's a common thing that people ask for.
Oh, absolutely. Got to have those transparent PNG files.
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is fantastic, and I can definitely see how useful this would be in, sharing your mission and what you do, both to the volunteer side of things, more, the journalist news side, the donor side. No, this is great. Okay, so let me just ask you, one of the questions we get a lot, and I know one of the topics that is on a lot of people's mind is, of course, metadata. All the different types you can use, the different formats it can take, and how it's, in general, a much more efficient way of organizing and finding your assets than just, the basic kind of folder trees that we all grew up being used to. So, what kind of metadata do you use the most in your instance?
Yeah, I would say we probably use tags the most and spend the most time making sure those are well implemented. I will say when I first started implementing this, I probably went a little overboard with tags and was, trying to think of everything that could possibly describe something. I backed off.
We do always say that with tags, it's better to be over specific. Keywords, you want to be kind of your general big buckets, but tags, go crazy. Have as many as you want.
For sure. And I do feel like most people are just using this general search, and they're just putting in a word or two. So really making sure you have those tags that really match what they're looking for is definitely important.
Gotcha. Oh, and wow, and we can also see on this one, you've got your user-generated tags, donation, donor, facility, the location, and then we've got the smart tags that have popped up, that's using the Amazon facial recognition and AI tech, picking up, there are people in this. I know that can be really useful for just trying to separate, photos of humans and photos of just stuff, food, other things. No, this is really cool. I like this. So you use mostly tags and like custom fields. Can you show us a couple more images, just so we can kind of get a sense of the tagging system and how that works for different types of images?
Let's see. I'm trying to find a good one. This is probably a good one. Okay, this is actually a great example because we had the most recent winter storm. Was another disaster that we had on top of COVID. So it was. People were searching for images of our response during that, but they don't really look that different than the ones during COVID, right? So it was really important to have the tags show that this is a different, we're responding to a different event, as well as a really good description here.
Right, that it's specific to, I mean, exactly, because you see, food and a person with a mask. Yeah, how else would you differentiate that? Especially with, if you have a ton of photos from the same event and they all have very specific, like numbered file names that aren't very
Right.
indicative of what they are.
Yes,
Oh,
true.
excellent. This is a great example. And again, we see with the smart tags picking up all the different items and objects as well as the people. And then, yeah, all your user generated tags, which are going to make it super easy to find and search for.
Yeah, and
Um,
I've found another thing people often search for
mm,
that's helpful for food banks and probably other nonprofits is the organizations that you partner with. So this
mm,
was Aldi and ISD, Independent School District that we partnered with to do this distribution. So I made sure I put that in the tag and then spelled it out in the description so that when people search for either of those, just to show our partnership, it's easy to find.
excellent. And making sure they can find only photos for that partnership
Right.
out of, the countless thousands that are
Right.
there. So other than, images, what other kind of assets do you store in your library?
So video clips are pretty popular, short little
Mm,
video clips. If we were doing a bigger video, I think maybe a large thank you video or a video showing our, really what we do, the Marcom team would really spearhead that. But little clips are just a great way to show the different things that we do. If somebody really just wants to email this little clip or
mm,
put it in a newsletter, or for B-roll for the media, for the
mhm.
news. So that has been really helpful. And, those tend to be larger files, even if they're 19 seconds. So,
Right.
having them stored somewhere else that's not as efficient was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, definitely taking the time to email, those files, then getting the you're over the limit, over the size limit. That's the worst message to get. Nobody wants that.
Then other than that, so, icons and graphics. So we'll either purchase those, draw those, create those, just trying to find things that are similar to our brand or, particular infographics for different programs.
Mm,
And then logos, of course. And then we also have, Feeding America has this as well, and it's what inspired me, but our story bank. So written stories of the people who have received help from the food bank or its partners, or who have helped provide that help. I see them as someone would lift a quote or a paragraph or just the general
mm,
idea from here. They wouldn't necessarily download this and send it to somebody, but it's just an easy way to find what you need in terms of a story with the tags, right? So if you wanted a story about COVID, you would search for that, and it could be from any number of programs or any number of kinds of stories, but it's easy to find the general idea of the story that you're looking for.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that being so useful to journalists and also for volunteers. Just for really understanding the motivation of why you all do what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And just any staff member, when you're trying to get somebody to join a program or donate or volunteer, having a real story or at least an anecdote from somebody is really powerful.
And being able to go here and find all of them, it's not in a hanging file folder. It's all
Exactly.
easily here and searchable.
Yeah.
So, in terms of you yourself, how do you usually search for content? Like, what's your go-to strategy?
So I generally use a combination of general search, and then I'll pop in and I'll use these filters a lot. Um,
Mhm,
content type is one I use a lot actually, in conjunction with just a general search. Um,
mhm. Gotcha. Oh, and I see. So, we have the smart albums at the top of the page, which just break things down into images, document types, presentations, videos. But you've also got it filtered separately by PNG versus JPEG,
yeah,
for
exactly,
images. Yeah, so I can see that would definitely be especially useful for graphic designers and photographers who work on the team.
for sure.
So in terms of other than yourself, who's using Canto internally?
Yeah, so the way that I like to think about it, in addition to our marketing communications staff, which is four full-time staff, and then we have some wonderful supplemental workers who are helping us right now. I kind of think of it, like I said, as anybody at the organization who ever uses a computer, right? They will at some time need a logo or a photo or just the brand guidelines or a template. So we have our staff portal set up so that it's domain registration. So you just have to have a Houston Food Bank email address, and then you can create your own account. Because I really do encourage, all of our staff to at least register and take a look, because you never know when you might need something from there.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, you showed us the different portals for, the staff and, your COVID portal, your public portal. But in terms of other ways of sharing content, how do you usually do that for content sharing?
So I encourage the link sharing. I think it's just super easy and helpful. And so I have, in our help center on our staff portal, I have a whole video on on how to do it to show people. But yeah, I would say, and I just noticed in this new update, there's a automatic this copy to clipboard, which is awesome because there were so many times where I'd forget to copy it.
Right, and then you have to open it back up again.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I just think that's such an easy way, and I love how when you do share the link, it's kind of this own mini little branded portal, so you know where you are, you know why somebody sent you this link, and you can immediately see what it is.
Gotcha. Excellent, excellent. And I love that you've created also, additional tutorials for all of this. Just makes things so simple. So for you, what does a typical workflow look like in terms of, who's uploading, who's downloading, and all the stuff that happens in between those two stages?
Yeah, in terms of uploading, again, I really encourage anyone with a camera, anyone with a phone that has a camera to at some point upload some content. The way I see it is the marketing communications team can't be everywhere, and also will never be able to capture everything. So to really achieve a good representation and our collective voice of an organization, we want everybody to be capturing things that are going on in their programs or distributions, or even when they're meeting with volunteers or donors, and then uploading that content, and then we can share it back out really easily.
So what would you say is like most commonly downloaded? Like, if you looked at it all, what are users, accessing the most?
Yeah, I think the last time I looked at it, it was PowerPoint templates, which makes sense since everybody has to make a million of those every week, and our logos.
And in the remote world, there's even more PowerPoints.
Exactly, yes. But I would say our templates in general are very popular, and then our logos are probably next up. General photos, a good photo that is recent that shows kind of what we're doing, right? So whether that was when we were doing those large super sites at stadiums, a photo that showed scale, maybe a drone photo. The first time we had volunteers who were wearing masks, those photos were really popular to use.
Just those really kind of unique human moments that were captured. When you were kind of in the initial process of looking for a digital asset management system, what made you go with Canto as your DAM provider?
Yeah, so for me, it was just the interface looked very easy to use. It looked clean, and I loved how customizable it was too. So just being able to, decide if I want the curated look on this album versus a different one where I don't have that, or having the flexibility of different levels of permission at the different portals, different types of access. And then I also just love the constantly making improvements. There have been so many times when I've talked to y'all and I've said, oh, it would be great if we had this, and either they've said, oh, that's already in the works, or we'll put that in as a feature request, and then a few months later it shows up. So I really appreciate that.
We try to make this as an evolving of a product as we possibly can, and our customers, like yourself, are our greatest assets. So we do want to make sure that we're implementing features that are actually going to be used and are useful. So thank you. That makes me really happy to hear. Okay, so as we get close to wrapping up, I would just say, what is your favorite feature?
I do love how easy it is to just replace things. So, with SharePoint, you make a small change on a template or a document, or even just in a photo, and you have to re-upload the whole thing. The link changes half the time. It all gets messy, but it's just so easy to replace something when you change it. And I'll give an example with our letterhead. Every time we have to update the board, we have to, it's the same document, and then I want it to be in the same place and people access it a lot. But so just being able to, I actually have to go in here.
And making sure that nobody is going to continue using an old version
Exactly.
that they happen to have saved somewhere.
Yeah, or found some old link, but it's just so easy, and we can even add the notes to what changed. So, if something does happen in the future where we need to revert back, it's really easy. You just drag and drop onto here and make some notes, and then your new one, set it as approved, and you're good to go. And no one even realizes it's changed.
Right, but you can see the documents, the history and the revisions. So when you want to follow kind of like the trail of that, all that information's still there. Very cool. Okay, so I think we're just about wrapped up, but we do have a couple minutes for some Q&A. So if you don't mind, I am going to go to some of the questions that we have received.
Sure.
So looking at a list of questions, oh, here's a good one. So how was your experience onboarding, getting everything into Canto, getting all your content into the library? If you could, just tell us a little bit about that.
I actually had kind of an interesting way in. I had been looking at this platform for a couple months. I was trying to get it into our budget for our fiscal year 20, which started July 1st of 2020. And or I guess that's 2021, doesn't matter. But I had been looking at it, for 6 months, doing my research, making my case. And then the pandemic hit, March. We were all working remotely. I needed more content. I needed more templates. And Canto was nice enough to give me a trial and extend it a little bit so that I could really make my case stronger, and they couldn't say no to me. So by the time I actually really onboarded, I had spent 6 weeks or so with the platform, and I had just been diving into it, morning, noon, and night, whenever I could, figuring things out. And so for me, it was very easy, because by the time I got to the formal onboarding, I basically was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize it could do that, instead of just.
You're ready for the advanced
Exactly.
the advanced course. You'd already done your general education.
I find it very user friendly, and you can kind of use it in terms of technology kind of how you want. If you want to get really technical with it and really complicated, you can, and if you don't have to.
So it kind of works for different levels of technological, I wouldn't say sophistication, but technological tolerance.
Right.
How deep do you want to go?
Exactly.
Gotcha. And I guess that kind of segues into this next question, which is a really good question. Something I'm genuinely curious about is, since you kind of did your initial, onboarding with Canto and implementing the program across the organization, sort of in the early stages of everybody, going remote in a way that they previously had not been doing. Were there any aspects or features that you found yourself using in that new environment that you might not have initially considered, or maybe you didn't think you'd use as much, but you ended up using a lot of?
Yeah, honestly, I would definitely say the upload links, because when we were all in the office, I could just run down to the warehouse and take a quick photo, and I'd have that. But then just needing all that extra content for even simple things that I would have been able to get really easily in the past was it was a lifesaver.
Gotcha. When you're no longer able to just pass around a flash drive or a USB stick.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Excellent. No, I mean, that makes total sense. And is absolutely indicative of how useful something like this is in a remote work environment where teams are just very distributed. Okay, so I guess finally, not really a Q&A question, but just a question to you personally. Where can people find you online if they want to help support or collaborate with Houston Food Bank and the work that you do?
Oh, that's a great question. Our website, houstonfoodbank.org, has lots of resources on how you can get involved in terms of volunteering, donating, or just spreading the word about what we do and how we help people, as well as our social channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram. I believe both of those are at Houston Food Bank, and Facebook as well, and LinkedIn. I think those are Houston Food Bank or the Houston Food Bank, should pop up pretty easily there. But yeah, lots of resources on just learning what we do and making sure that that word is spread and learning how to get involved.
Excellent. Well, really, I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to show us your Canto instance, your library, the kind of work you do in it, and how that enables the work you do in the community. I know everyone's super busy, but thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. And with that, I will say a goodbye to all of you. Thank you.